way that this Dynamite started off, you had to be grinning ear to ear. Dating back from when we first saw Matt Sydal make his way into AEW, you were taken back by him. I mean, I've been a fan of Evan Bourne from his previous life, but I think that he's bringing, now that he's got that veteran, all that experience under his belt, I think that he's really coming into his own, and he realizes he doesn't just need to be a high flyer. Matt Sydal has a lot of ability beyond just being able to do flips, being an acrobat in the ring. He's actually a very smart wrestler, and I think that his path has got him to a place where he can go toe-to-toe with a vet like Christian Cage, a man who has really been at the top of the mountain, and hold his own. I thought that Matt Sydal versus Christian Cage was a great way to start this show. Obviously, our lead writer, Booking by Bonds, he's going to be geeking out to talk about the post-match antics of this one because he's such a Team Taz mark. He's such a Team Taz fanboy. But the actual match itself was a real showcase for two industry veterans who really, I feel like it was really well fought. Christian kind of showed, as JR pointed out, showed a little bit of heel tendencies in tonight's match, showed a little extra aggression, showed a little extra, tenacity, a little bit of fire in his belly in this one. I think that Christian certainly came into this one with a lot to prove. People are challenging him. That moniker has people, I think some of the vets in the back has people, has a little rubbing them the wrong way.
That's a good point.
He came out here tonight really leaning, using his size to his advantage, really leaning into some of his moves tonight, and almost played a bully role at certain points in this match versus Matt Sydal. I was surprised to see that out of Christian tonight, but it was a pleasant surprise. What were some of your thoughts from this match, SPD? Because I know Matt Sydal has been a guy that you feel is underappreciated in the AEW landscape, one of the underrated signings. And when you talk about big signings, Christian has been the marquee one. So what was your thoughts on this one?
First and foremost, it was it's always great to hear Taz on commentary. He really adds another level of dynamic and hilarity and really in-depth wrestling knowledge too. So I really like the way he explains moves and how it was saying how Christian Cage is really working on the different moves, the back and different things like that. So I absolutely love it, man. Such a great dynamic to the matches. I wish he was on commentary the full 2 hours in the show, but this was, like you said, two veterans really working each other, great chemistry in the ring. It wasn't, let's say, unfortunately, it was a main event quality match, but it was a great way to open and a great story told throughout the show and a great story told after the match. I really like that aspect where you're saying how Cage kind of has a target on his back and by Team Taz for sure.
No doubt.
That makes a lot of sense for that. But I do agree, man. Sydal is very underrated, underappreciated. He's not the biggest guy, but he can work with, we saw with Kenny Omega, he can work with, so many different styles, really adaptable, really a chameleon worker. I love that. But, after the fact, it's good to see that Ricky Starks is doing really well. Clearly,
go ahead, give us the obligatory Ricky Starks. Yeah.
But you're absolute crayfish, bro. You're absolute crayfish. I'm powerhouse SPD.
I gotta say, man, Ricky Starks coming out and cutting that promo tonight was much needed. There was so much speculation on how long Ricky Starks would be on the shelf. A lot of people who were kind of worried about, anytime you hear neck injury in professional wrestling, that opens up your eyes and gets you worried. And Ricky Starks is one of those guys, man. His star power is such a breath of fresh air every time he's on the screen. The dude just oozes star power. And what a promo he cut. Stud. That Team Taz beatdown that they gave was something else. Huh? I mean, that post-match, they really sent the message to, I feel like, all of AEW. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, right? Is Team Taz going to fall apart? What's going to happen to them? And all these things. And with Ricky Starks' neck injury, it was almost, okay, this group's falling, this group's breaking apart. It's just going to happen. After this type of post-match beatdown that they gave with how strong they look and how smooth they look together, how polished this crew looked, you would have never guessed that they had all this inner turmoil just a few weeks ago, right? I mean, they looked like they were a well-polished, well-oiled machine, no?
They absolutely needed this. You know, at first when Hangman came out and then started getting the upper hand, and then when House, Flash, Cage, I was like, oh gosh, is this going to turn into one of those like laughing stocks of Team Taz? And then it ended great, because you have Brian Cage standing tall once again, and I think that was perfectly booked to really expand it. And I absolutely loved when the Dark Order blocked, or no, that was for the Ethan Page, the other one. But when he handed him the drink and came out,
when Hangman came out and handed Ricky Starks his drink, hold my beer, but it was bourbon this time around. Hold my whiskey. He goes in there and he basically like was playing the save, and it didn't work out that way for him, did it? I mean, it certainly
and it's a good setup for
Go ahead. Yeah.
Good setup for coming up. Yeah. And I think Ricky Starks, as we talked about before, how, Stone Cold and Angle were injured, but they were featured because when they were featured, it was pure gold and they didn't have to be in the ring. And this is going to be a perfect example for someone who has got it all in Ricky Starks. And for him to get more face time and more fans to either love or hate him, you're going to grow to love him no matter what, even if you do hate him, more and more on the mic. He's going to be out of the ring recovering. And he's just going to grow, maybe be more of the face of Team Taz. Maybe he'll start his own faction and be the leader of that until he gets back. I think you could see that.
He certainly has leader vibes, right? I mean, like,
for sure.
Like, especially when you look at the way that this team is constructed, Cage and Hobbs are very much the type of guys who prefer to let their actions speak for themselves. Those guys are powerhouses, and they're the machines. For a reason. They just a wrecking crew. So it's good to have a mouthpiece like Starks, and this could end up being one of those things that works out for their advantage, right? I mean, what better way to draw heat than to have a guy constantly chirping and running his mouth off, but not being able to get physical because he has a legitimate neck injury. And then, you don't want, no baby face is going to want to touch Starks because, then you're going to like, oh man, you're going after a guy with a broken freaking neck. It could work, man. This could really work if they lean into Ricky Starks playing up the neck injury, playing to his strengths with, him yapping, using that mouth of his. He's gold on the mic. I think that could be a really nice movement for Team Taz to kind of go down that path. It was also really cool seeing Hook get physical again, man. I think that this young kid,
it was the most I've seen him physical.
Yeah, he threw a nice little T-bone suplex in honor of his dad. I feel like Hook is slowly kind of emerging as a guy who more and more people want to see a little bit, see like those little peaks of physicality. I love that, kind of get that dirtbag cheek attack, the sneak attacks in there here and there. I really liked that vibe. And the way that this one was playing out throughout, it really is setting the stage for the Battle Royal. Christian Cage clearly, came in when he first debuted. Christian Cage had his eyes on Kenny Omega. He made it very clear he wanted a title shot. You and I have talked about, if you're going to book Kenny Omega's title reign, Christian could be one of those guys who could get a shot at Kenny and not lose anything if he were to lose to Kenny, right? He's such an established vet. So, Christian has to enter this Battle Royal as an odds-on favorite. But, we talked about Brian Cage beating the number one contender in Hangman Adam Page and doing so convincingly. Brian Cage has already had a long history of coming up big in these matches, where he won the chip, right? He won that big chip for a title shot in the ladder match. Brian Cage does come up big in these big moments. So I have a feeling, Team Taz is starting to build their momentum going into the Battle Royal. Christian Cage is clearly emerging as a favorite. And Adam Page, if he's entering this Battle Royal, this could be finally where we've all been saying, he was the number one contender. He got knocked off his perch as the top guy. If he wins this one, there's no way around it. This guy is getting his title shot. So a lot of interesting storylines going into the Battle Royal. I think that one's going to be one of those matches that AEW fans are going to get a treat. Double or Nothing, this card is absolutely stacked.
I can't wait for us to do a Double or Nothing preview show next week because there's all a bunch of different stuff. We're going to do a preview show, talk a lot about this at Friday Night Fights this Friday, really do some nice card predictions. So that's going to be some fun stuff, man. Is it ever a stacked card? Wow.